I want to tell you about my new friends. Their names are Bobby, Jonathan, Anthony, Karamo, and Tan. Does anyone else know them, these 5 people? Bobby, Jonathan, Anthony, Karamo, and Tan. They're known as the Fab Five, and they're on the television show Queer Eye. Perhaps you've seen it. If not, I invite you to watch it. The premise of this show is that these 5 members of the LGBTQ community find and help a person in the areas of fashion, food, home decor, culture, and grooming. The people being featured on the show are often nominated by their friends or their family or their coworkers. And since this is technically a makeover show, people who are featured are often in some sort of a slump. They're having a tough time recovering from a loss. They're struggling with their identity. They're otherwise not thriving in their lives. Enter the Fab Five. They spend a week with this person. They learn about them as an individual, what holds them back, what lifts them up. And they learn about this person's relationships. And again, who lifts them up, who holds them back. In the course of the episode, we learn about the featured person's broken dreams, their fear of loss or rejection, the ways their self-esteem has plummeted. And as the week goes on, we watch as the Fab Five help that person to shine. They don't try to change that person, their style or their way of life, but they empower them to live fully and authentically into the person they truly are. Sometimes they remind them of the person they truly are. They renew that person's sense of self and its place in their life. In a sense, the Fab Five focus on the places that seem broken. They try to find natural ways of bringing about healing or light. Inevitably, there are tears at the end of the week from the Fab Five and the person they've helped, and they all thank one another for being vulnerable and open. And there are always, at least in my house, tears for those of us watching. The show is tremendously healing and a breath of fresh air from the hostile and violent daily news cycle. It's a reminder that people are good and that together we can do hard things. And I believe that the Fab Five are only able to do these things because they themselves are wounded healers. You see, in Queer Eye, we don't just get to know the people being made over, we get to know the Fab Five themselves. We learn about their struggles with bullying, religious intolerance, even abuse. We learn about the fears that they've held, the times they've been broken, the ways they have found healing and grace. And we come to understand that they are wounded healers. The concept of a wounded healer was coined by Carl Jung and expanded upon by Henry Nouwen. It emphasizes the necessity of connecting with our own places of brokenness, of sadness, of failure, of loss. And in that process, opening up our ability to help others to do the same. In essence, in order to help others through their experiences of deep hurt, we must first be aware of the hurt and the broken places in our own hearts. And we all have them. These places that sting, those feelings of fear and insecurity, those experiences of feeling alone. And so it is with the Fab Five. Having known that feeling of loneliness, of sadness, of rejection, of brokenness, they're able to meet others there and to stay with them for a while. They're even able to connect with people who are politically, ideologically, culturally different from them, because they're able to tap into those places that transcend socioeconomic class, status, race, culture, politics. They enter into people's lives in these places of fear, of sadness, of loneliness, of loss, and they stay. And they listen, and they help, and they love, and they renew this sense of wholeness in a person who feels broken and leads them to a place where they feel fabulous, a place where they can shine. There's a practice in Japan, in Japanese art called Konsuki. Perhaps you're familiar with it. In Kintsugi, a broken plate or a vase or a bowl is carefully and intentionally fused back together using expensive metals like gold or silver or platinum. So the places that were once ragged and broken are returned to their original place, but with some extra sparkly love this time around. Just like the main characters in Queer Eye, these broken pieces are made fabulous and new. I love this concept of kintsugi. I love the idea that things are broken and they don't have to be thrown away. That actually, in the end, it's precisely the ways they've been broken and the process by which they've been healed that makes them even more valuable in the end. I love that the process of filling the cracks is beautiful and healing. And it comes to no surprise to me that the material for the filling of the gold, it can be gold, it can be silver, it can be sparkly and fabulous, as it should be for all of us. Anyone among us can relate to this idea, to this sense of brokenness, feeling like it might not be worth to put back together again. And then the experience of somehow things coming together in the end. It's even in that children's nursery rhyme, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Is that right? They couldn't put him back together again? It is so not how I remembered that rhyme. Huh. In fact, when I was writing this sermon, I actually had to Google that to make sure that I was reciting it correctly, and it's true. The words are, they couldn't put him back together again. This was disappointing to me. It was going to be my reference about brokenness in our childhood and how we can heal from it. And obviously I have a different philosophy about this, on the power of community to heal and hold pain and put things back together again. Because here's the thing, I think Mother Goose got it wrong. I think that all the king's horses and all the king's men might have been able to get Humpty Dumpty back together again. If, first of all, they brought in the queen and some of her people, and if some of them had liquid gold and or platinum, or if they had just called up their Japanese neighbors and asked how they put important things back together, they might have had a little cross-cultural learning of a new skill in healing. All joking aside, though, it's true that like Humpty Dumpty, after we've been broken, we may never get the pieces back just as they were before. Just like in our story this morning, the castle looked different the second time around. Even with our best efforts, we may never get them back just so in the right places. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point isn't to get things back to the way they used to be. Maybe the new thing can be just as beautiful and even more valuable than the old thing. Maybe the things that break us help us to break our hearts open wider to more love and more possibility. I think that all of us are finding some brokenness in our lives these days. The ways that we have always engaged with one another, created community, learned, worked, parented, lived our lives, are now fragmented and broken because of the pandemic. Our expectations have been shattered. And we have an opportunity for renewal as we heal and continue to live into our new reality. One way to think about renewal is the replacing or repair of something that is worn out, run down, or broken. One way to think about renewal is showing up to challenges in our own unique way, just like Giant John. Like the Fab Five, we play a part in this process, not only for others, but for ourselves. We have a chance to breathe new life into things that would otherwise be thrown away. We have a chance to take the things that wear on our hearts, that threaten to break us, and flip them, take ownership of them, fill them in with light and possibility. We have power to see the ways their brokenness can be a blessing instead of a curse. We have the opportunity to choose renewal over defeat and brokenness. I'm reminded of a piece called The Manifesto of the Brave and Brokenhearted. It's a piece written by Brene Brown, and it goes like this. There is no greater threat to the critics and cynics and fearmongers than those of us who are willing to fail because we have learned how to rise. With skinned knees and bruised hearts, we choose owning our stories of struggle, over hiding, over hustling, over pretending. When we deny our stories, they define us. When we run from struggle, we are never free. So we turn toward truth and look it in the eye. We will not be characters in our own stories, not villains, not victims, not even heroes. We are the authors of our lives. We write our own daring endings. We craft love from heartbreak, compassion from shame, grace from disappointment, courage from failure. Showing up is our power. Story is our way home. Truth is our song. We are the brave and brokenhearted. We are rising strong. We craft love from heartbreak. We own our stories of struggle instead of pretending. Just like our reading this morning and the authors striving toward perfection and flawlessness, there will come a time when things aren't perfect and flawless, and that's okay. Sometimes we are forced to live in that space for months longer than we first anticipated. Sometimes that place is compounded by systems of oppression and worrisome political reality and the threat of the very planet we call home. And growth and courage is still possible. Love is still possible. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm that there is goodness and worth in each of us. We also value the ways that our experiences shape our worldview, and perhaps even more importantly, that our worldview can change and grow and deepen over time. Our Universalist heritage tells us that God is love, and that love is the answer, always. Even when we are knocked down, skinned knees, too tired to stand. In those moments when we are struggling to love ourselves, may we be reminded of this. May you be reminded that love, a love with a capital L, lives within you, and love lives within me, and love lives in the space between that is larger and more powerful than either one of us. In those moments when the world weighs on your hearts, when we wonder if putting the pieces back together is worth it at all, may we gather community together in whatever way we can and find a way forward. When we have places that feel broken and in need of some healing, may we allow ourselves to be loved into wholeness by those who speak a spark of goodness to us and fabulousness hiding within us. May we be gentle within ourselves. May we be gentle with one another. May we find that place within ourselves that aches for goodness and justice to prevail. And may we rise time and time again, finding strength in that place. In the words of Leonard Cohen, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. May we let the light of our goodness and love shine forth from the places where we have been broken, for it is a beautiful sight. May it be so. Amen. Blessed be.